It's time to make the passenger base. Hopefully you're up to this part now. And it's a pretty straightforward part. The one thing that students have a little trouble sometimes getting these dimensions quite right, but it's not too hard. Pretty straightforward, except for the star. The star is where students often have trouble. And this picture here is from the T9 dimension drawings. And while it is accurate, this 0.187 dimension here can get students confused. It can kind of be a red herring, a misdirection. It's not a good way to make the star, I don't feel, trying to duplicate this 0.187. Also, it shows the dimension of 0.200, the 200 thousandths from the end of the star to the edge, which is duplicated here with the circle and the square and the triangle, also the same, you see the same dimension. But we're going to center it, we're going to dimension it from the center. So we're not going to, I don't really recommend using this set of dimensions, and instead, you do need to remember the shell thickness of 0.01. Instead, we're going to use the Introduction to CAD Modeling Skills. It has a better drawing, easier to read. I think the dimensions here are better to follow, and you'll also find that the instructions here are also much better, more detailed. There are instructions. The other one doesn't have any actual instructions, and I'm actually going to follow this format. So making the box 1.975 by 1.590, pretty straightforward. Making the fillets on the four corners, also very straightforward. The circle and the square and the triangle, also pretty easy to do. Sometimes students do have a little bit of trouble creating this dimension right here. You could use this, the 0.340 from the center and the 0.490 from the left side. It's easier to do than this 0.050. This is doable. These two dimensions are doable, but most students find these two dimensions easier to reproduce. So let's say and you should have, done the circle, the square, the triangle inside of the passenger section. Then you might have something that looks like this. And so we're going to go ahead and finish this off. I'm going to go here to Sketch 1. I'm not going to create a new sketch yet. I'm going to go back to my original sketch. Right click and edit sketch. So here we go. Zoom in a little bit on the area that we're interested in, and we want a point for the center of our first circle. So I'm going to put this on construction. I want to make sure I'm on construction, this little symbol up here, and then I'll choose circle. Yes, we're making a star, but we're going to start with circles. And when I go to place this point, I don't want to line up with any of the other lines that are already on here. So like if I line up right there, it already creates a constraint. That dotted line is showing a constraint there. And I don't want to do that. I want to make sure that this is where it needs to be. So even though it will line up with, let's just leave it at that. We're not going to line it up with any of the other points. So this spot's good. Just pick a spot. It could be this spot, it could be this spot, not that spot, because that dotted line shows up. And I kind of made it show up. I teased it by touching that center of the circle. So we'll choose this spot right here. Click, and we're going to draw a circle. And this is based on these dimensions here, and we can see that that outside circle is 0.605. 605 thousandths. So 0.605, 605 thousandths, and there's our first circle. And we're going to go right back, get a green dot, and make our second circle. And from that same set of dimensions, we can see that it's 412 thousandths. And there's our second circle. And lastly, we're going to make a pentagon. Also, construction. We're going to click, we want to make sure that it's 5-sided. Pentagons are always 5-sided. We're going to get a green dot right there, smack dab in the center, concentric. And this is going to be inscribed between our two circles. It's going to be an inscribed pentagon. So when we go down, when we hit that first circle, we can see it turn black. That's nice, but that's not where we want it. We want to touch the second circle. And you notice that directly above the cursor, there's a dotted line going to our center point. If I'm off to the right, or if I'm off to the left, I don't get the dotted line. But when I'm straight down, now I get the dotted line. That's very important. We need that point to be directly below the center point. And because my outside circle, that construction line is turned black, I know I'm on that circle, and that's where we're going to put it. And oh, look at all those lovely constraints. Very nice. And we right click and we say, okay, thank you very much for doing that for us. We're going to dimension this now and get it into the correct location. So dimension, we're going to click bottom edge, and we're going to click the center. And that dimension, according to our paper, the Introduction to CAD Modeling Skills, is 0.363. And everything else moved accordingly. But we look around and all the dimensions are correct, so that's good. And while we're still on dimension, click the left side, click that center, and this dimension is 0.488. There we go. Very good. So now it's in the correct location. Now we can get to the actual drawing of our star. We want to turn off construction. And we're going to choose line. And we'll zoom in a little bit so it's a little easier for you to see what I'm doing. And I could start on any one of these 5 points. Any one of them would be fine. We'll go ahead and start at the bottom. And I'm going to click at the point of the pentagon and then move to the inner circle. You can see it turns black. As soon as I touch it, it turns black. And the actual spot isn't super critical. It just needs to be somewhere on that inner circle between this point and this point. So I'm going to touch the circle, click. Now it stops drawing as soon because it was a green dot, so I have to click again. And I go to that point right there, the second point on our pentagon, and I click. Again, to keep drawing, I need to click again. So I click, inner circle, click, click again on that spot, outer circle. Get a green dot, click. Click again, move to the inner circle. Not getting any other constraints. I just want to make sure that it goes from point to circle. And you may pick up some extra constraints along the way, and we'll talk about those. See if right there, there's a constraint. That dotted line that's running across the part. So I move a little ways so that I don't have a dotted line, and I just keep clicking, 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 drawing my lines around. The only constraints I'm interested in is, am I at the point, and am I on this inner line? So we did it all. Right click, okay, look at that, there's a star. It's not a great star. The lines are not even. It's going to look a little odd if you extruded it the way it looks now. We need to fix this thing up. So first thing we need to do is make sure we don't have any unintended constraints. We don't want any unintended constraints. So we right click here on the screen and we say, hey, show us all the constraints, which is also F8. If you could push the F8 key, you also will get that. So we say, show us all the constraints. And we look around, and this looks really good. All we have are these little guys showing the coincident points. That's great. Sometimes this line will show up as vertical. If this line shows up as vertical, that's no good. You have to delete the constraint that says it's vertical. You don't have to delete the line, just the constraint. Because if you delete the line and then redraw it, it's going to be vertical again. Sometimes you'll get a tangent symbol between these lines and the circle, this inner circle. Tangent is this symbol right here, and so that could happen too. So if you get a vertical or you get a tangent or any of these other symbols besides these little guys, you need to delete them. Right click on them and you push delete. But these are all good. I like all of these symbols. None of these will be a problem for us. So I right click and I say, I need to click again because it kept thinking I was talking about that symbol I clicked on. And we could say hide all the constraints. We don't need to see them anymore. We only want to see the ones that we're going to be making, and that is equal. So we click on equal, and with the equal symbol selected, we are going to be making these pairs equal to each other. So between points of the pentagon, there's two lines, and we want them to be equal in length, just to each other. Then we're going to make these two equal to each other in length, and then these two equal to each other in length, and then these two equal to each other in length. I'm not trying to get this line and this line equal to each other. That'll happen already. It'll over-constrain it if we do that. So just this one and this one, we can see that they're obviously not equal. This one's much longer. And then, of course, these two. So let's go ahead and do that. So we'll start at the bottom again, click, and click. And it adjusted it just a little bit. I think you'll see a bigger adjustment on this one. Click there, and there we saw a much bigger adjustment. We can see the equal constraints being demonstrated here. So click, click, a little adjustment there. We see an adjustment on this one. Click, click, and one last pair. Click and click. There we go. Now we have a good looking star. Right click OK, and this piece is ready to extrude. We don't have to worry about any of these lines because they're all construction lines. So they won't slow us down when we extrude. So we finish sketch. We're going to extrude this. If we go back to the shell thickness is 0.01, the extrusion is 0.30. So we choose extrude, and to see the pink, if any of these show up pink when you're clicking or hovering over this section, they both show up as pink, then you did not close the loop. This loop is not closed. This could happen on the star or the circle. Go back and edit, and right click on a line and choose close loop, and left click your way all the way around that loop and close it. So, and find the errors, find the openings or the non-coincident points. So this is great. We're going to choose this section right here. We're going to change that dimension to 0.30, and that looks good. Now you need to just do one last thing, and that's shell the other side. Make sure you shell the correct side. It's this back side here. So we choose shell right there, and that was a left click, and it's asking, hey, what face do you want to remove? We want to remove this one that was red. And you can see that it's pretty thick. We need to change that dimension to 0.01. Much better. Click OK, and there you go. Fini. Now you can go ahead and change that to plastic, and you can change the color, and it'll look just like the parts in your instructions.